Kosovo War was a ferocious war between ethnic Albanians in Kosovo and Serbians, which lasted for 2 years, from 1998 to 1999, and came as a result of complicated and long-debated conflicts of territory. The country that we today know as Kosovo has for a long time been considered part of Serbia, until it declared its independence and became a separate country. The cause of this war has not been abrupt and simple, so in order to understand it, we need to address the conflict at its beginnings, which was many years ago. Let's first talk about these countries' ancient origins. Albanians, Kosovars, and all Albanian-speaking people in the Balkans are descendants of the Illyrians, an ancient group of people who lived in Europe since the 10th century BC. The Illyrians ruled their own empire and possessed great territory, with frontiers stretching from the Danube River to the Adriatic Sea to the Sar Mountains. Illyria consisted of different tribes, which were their own kingdoms, speaking the ancient Albanian language. The region of Kosovo was known as the Dardania tribe. In the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire took over Illyria, also gaining control of the Dardanian tribe, where Kosovo now lies. When the Roman Empire split into East and West in the late 4th century, the whole of Illyria was now under the rule of the Byzantine Empire. In the 6th century, barbaric Slavic tribes coming from the Carpathian Mountains were settled in Illyria under the patronage of the Byzantine Empire, after having conducted an alliance which would interest the Byzantine Empire. The settlement of these Slavic tribes is known as the earliest appearance of the Slavic people in the Balkans territory. During this period, they make efforts to assimilate several Illyrian tribes under one culture, the Slavic one. Some Illyrian tribes adapted to the influence. However, the southern tribes of Illyria, in this case Albania and Kosovo, resisted this Slavic influence and were determined in preserving the early Albanian language. After the fall of the Byzantine Empire because of Turkish attacks, Albania was invaded by the Turkish Ottoman Empire in 1455 and remained under Turkish rule for about 500 years, despite the famous efforts and battles of national hero Skanderbeg to fight their settling. After the Ottoman Empire was finally defeated by Balkan allies, the great powers of the time, Britain, Germany, Russia, Austria-Hungary, France, and Italy, gathered in 1912 in what is known as the London Conference of Ambassadors, with the aim of settling conflicts of undecided territory after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. According to Britannica, the conference agreed to create an independent state of Albania, but, in drawing the borders of the new state, under strong pressure from Albania's neighbors, the great powers largely ignored demographic realities, aka statistics showing population majorities and minorities in the territory, and gave the vast region of Kosovo to Serbia. Thus, Serbia regained control of Kosovo, and Kosovo became an official part of Serbia, although it had never given up on its Albanian language and culture. After World War II, Kosovo, under the nation of Serbia, was absorbed into the Yugoslavian Federation, which was basically a union of many Slavic countries in the Balkans. After several protests from Kosovo in 1974, the Yugoslav constitution gives Kosovo more autonomy. In 1989, Slobodan Milosevic, the president of the Yugoslavian Federation, decides to remove Kosovo's already established right to autonomy. This causes ethnic Albanians to revolt, with the first signs of revolts being ideas of peaceful protests initiated by the famous Albanian academic Ibrahim Rugova. In July of 1990, ethnic Albanian leaders rise up to declare independence from Serbia. However, the Yugoslavian Federation does not officially accept this. Meanwhile, continuing their resistance, Kosovo elects Ibrahim Rugova president of their self-declared republic in 1992. This next step in their seek for independence also causes rising tension, and finally leads to the birth of the Kosovo Liberation Army in 1996. For the next 2 years, there were escalating armed conflicts between the army and the Serbian police.
Serbiens auf die Straße.
In der jugoslawischen Provinz Kosovo sind heute 3 Menschen ums Leben gekommen. Nach tagelangen Unruhen steht die überwiegend von Albanern bewohnte Provinz am Rande eines Bürgerkriegs.
Pristina heute Nachmittag. Noch sieht das Ganze hier aus wie ein Kleinkrieg. Da rotten sich Menschen zusammen, viele Jugendliche darunter, und skandieren Demokratie. Und prompt erscheint die Polizei auf der Bildfläche, feuert Tränengas.
Dragi momci, mi najbolje znamo, uniformu plavu, nikome ne damo. Šta su dragi momci, mi najbolje znamo, uniformu plavu, nikome ne damo.
In 1998, the conflict reached its climax point, where open war began between the groups. President Milosevic put into action his famous ethnic cleansing policy by commanding harsh reprisals to send the Albanian population of Kosovo out of the territory, breaking international law with his form of attacks.
"1999 will be remembered by Canadians for an extraordinary event. Canada was involved in the most recent large-scale refugee assistance effort. According to an estimate by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, more than 860,000 Kosovo Albanians were being driven out of their land by the Serbian armed forces in an apparent effort to cleanse Kosovo from its ethnic Albanians. A human tragedy of apocalyptic dimensions unfolded, resulting in the largest refugee crisis since the Second World War.
In September 1998, NATO, an intergovernmental military alliance, also known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, gave an ultimatum to President Milosevic to stop the violence. After efforts for peace agreements failed in a conference in France, where Serbia did not agree to have international peace troops settle in the war zones, in March of 1999, NATO bombs the Yugoslavian military camps.
Bullseye, 33947, heads up target area.
It took 78 days of airstrikes for Belgrade to finally resign. During this period, hundreds of thousands of Kosovo Albanian refugees fled to neighboring countries to find shelter from the forced expulsions and massacres they experienced in Kosovo. Many Serbian people fled Kosovo to escape the war and go to other parts of Serbia. In June of 1999, President Milosevic agreed to withdraw troops from Kosovo. International troops from NATO arrived in Kosovo, establishing a peace enforcement operation called the Kosovo Force, or commonly known as KFOR. At this point, the Kosovo Liberation Army agreed to disarm as well.
This is the Kosovo Force, or KFOR, an operational NATO-led force of multinational troops that has played a key role in ensuring Kosovo's security for the past 20 years.
Ditë historike, ditë e shënuar në histori. Gjithë pushtuesit diçka kanë ndërtu këtu, kurse Serbi vetëm ka shkatru. Për atë arsye.
After the war, a new era of smaller conflicts begins, as Kosovo now continues with their procedures for official independence. There were continuous disagreements, attacks, boycotts of elections, and violence between the two parties. During this period, Kosovo was administered by the UN, and it developed its national structures. It then formally declared its independence from Serbia in February of 2008.
Deklaratën e pavarësisë së Kosovës.
Most countries recognize Kosovo's independence, but few others, like Serbia, Russia, or Greece, still do not. Other foreign peacekeepers, such as NATO troops, the UN, and the EU monitors, are still in Kosovo to this day. During the years, there has been more dialogue and efforts for cooperation between the two countries, but the conflict is still considered an open wound.